What's up, everyone? Aaron Nagler here with Cheesehead TV and your Packers Daily Chat after the Packers 2019 draft has come and gone. And of course, the big, humongous, earth-shattering news here on Monday afternoon, the release of Nico Siragusa, guard from the Ravens that they picked up at the end of last season. Pour one out. Moment of silence for Nico Siragusa's Packers tenure. What's up, everyone? Hope you all had a good weekend. Got to recharge your battery on Sunday. I know I needed it, but here we are back in the fray, back in the comment section. Good to see everybody chiming in. Jeff, sup? How are you? Ernesto starts us off. The Packers reached on Gary. You don't know. Yes, that is your opinion. You are allowed to type it in, but we'll see. Nags, how you doing on this fine day? Will, I'm doing great. I'm doing wonderful. It's a beautiful Monday here in New York City. The Packers have a bunch of new players. Excited to see how it all works out. Nico, say it ain't so, yeah. What's up, Nags? Hope you're having a good day. I am having a great day. How quickly can Jace Sternberger make an impact in this offense? Well, Nick, you don't really ever know until they start, hitting the field and put some pads on and go against NFL-level competition. He's a one-year player as far as his production goes. Obviously transferred, didn't do a whole lot before this past season. I would be very surprised if he does much of anything this season. Can he contribute? Will he contribute? There's a possibility, definitely. Tight end is traditionally one of the hardest positions for guys to come in and make an impact their rookie year. There's just a lot that goes into playing the position at the NFL level that isn't as involved at the college level. You're going from blocking the future gym teachers of America on a down in and down out basis to the best of the best in line, defensive ends, every play. There's just a lot that he's going to have to kind of adjust to and grow into. Again, could he make a significant contribution? Yeah, it could happen. I would be surprised if it does. To me, this selection is all about looking towards the next year. Jimmy Graham will be most likely much more cuttable at that point because of his contract. And if the development goes the way they're probably hoping it will, maybe they can move on from Graham at that point. But that's traditionally what the Packers have done. They did it under Ted Thompson. It sure looks like Gutekunst will be operating in a similar way. The draft that they have is usually, you can usually kind of get an idea of what they're thinking if you look at the roster and look at the contracts that are coming up in the following season. And I think the tight end position is just such a case. I suppose a trade up like for Savage isn't a typical best player available approach. They were like everyone else still on the board, so they had to be pretty specific in what they wanted. Well, you listen to Gutekunst and his answering questions from the media after that selection, both the day it happened and the day after. You could definitely tell that's a player they had targeted specifically. They love his speed. They love his range. I think they love his ability to play that center field position. They needed somebody to complement Adrian Amos on the back end of their defense, and I think that's exactly what they got. I know there's some questions about his height. We'll see. That's one of those things that it's in the eye of the beholder. It's interesting, though, the pushback. Brian Gutekunst was pretty forceful when asked the day after about the Gil Brandt tweet saying that the Packers reached big time for him. And, Gutekunst saying he knew for a fact that Savage was not going to be available at 30. You do wonder if maybe there's some inside information there from the Ravens, who were reportedly in on him. Obviously, Milt Hendrickson, who came over from their staff, may have had some info there. There was word that the Colts were maybe interested in Savage. So Gutekunst seemed pretty adamant that he knew, Savage was not going to be there at 30. Now, of course, what else is he going to say? I know that crowd is coming, but I will say it's rare that Gutekunst offers something up voluntarily like that and so forcefully, which he most certainly did. There's always complaining about helping Aaron Rodgers in his prime by giving him more weapons, yet we don't see any weapons being added. Same for Ted Thompson philosophy. Those complaints are kind of silly when you look at all the weapons Aaron Rodgers has had throughout his career. Just because you take a guy in the first round doesn't mean he's a weapon, doesn't mean he's going to be a great player. Ted Thompson did a great job of supplying Aaron Rodgers with people to throw the ball to, whether it was Jermichael Finley, Greg Jennings, all the guys, Jordy Nelson. He had weapons. Devontae Adams. I mean, let's not sit here and say he hasn't been given guys to throw the ball to. I think the big difference between You look at Rodgers and Favre. Favre had guys goes down, he still kept slinging it to dudes. Yes, he threw a lot of interceptions, but I mean, when they went to the Super Bowl, he was thrown into Andre Rison off the street and Don Beebe. I mean, you got to make work with what you got if you're one of the best, especially. Don't get me started on that. Love the Jenkins pick. I tell you what, I hadn't done a lot of work on him prior to the draft, but man, I am loving his attitude. I am loving how he can play all along the line. No question, his addition certainly breeds a bunch of competition there on the interior, whether that is at right guard or even at left guard. Lane Taylor better look out. I think Lane will be given every opportunity to hold on to his job, but there's going to be some competition there. I'm pretty excited about it. Concerned about tackle depth. It's interesting. I mean, clearly the board didn't fall the way they wanted it to go get a dedicated tackle, but I think one of the reasons they paid Billy Turner as much as they did is because they want him to kick out to right tackle if and when Brian Bulaga goes down. He's going to get nicked up at some point. And in the past, that's meant moving on, putting Jason Spriggs in there. I think Billy Turner is probably now your official plan B at right tackle, even though they probably won't say that. I think the money he was given kind of indicates their thinking there. He's played a bunch of right tackle, and he's played probably at a much higher level than Jason Spriggs. So I think, would you like to have somebody who can step in? Sure, absolutely. Who's dedicated at the tackle position? Of course. But reality of today's NFL is most teams are lucky if they can find one good tackle, let alone three. And the Packers have two and maybe three. So I get wanting to have, having visions of Bakhtiari going down or Bulaga inevitably going down. That's just the NFL, man. Cody, you're late. Yes, we saw Saragusa was waived. We had a moment of silence at the top of the stream. What was your favorite pick, Nagler? Savage, no doubt. I'm really excited about that pick. I think he is going to be much like Clay Matthews was the last time the Packers exercised 2 first-round picks. I think Savage is going to be a playmaker. I think there's a ton of potential. There's a ton of upside there. Obviously, you got to put him on the field, see him against NFL-level competition, against NFL offenses, but I really like his game, and I love the aggressiveness, and I think that indicates how much they love him and they want to throw him out there and let him wreak some havoc. Let's head to Twitter, shall we? See what's going on. With Keith, who starts us off with, could Milt Hendrickson have tipped off Brian Gutekunst that the Ravens also liked Darnell Savage a lot? After we traded up and took him at 21, the Ravens traded out at the 22nd pick. Thoughts? Sorry to have answered that during the chat, but yes, I think that is eminently a possibility. Michael, how do teams figure out what other teams will do during the draft? Leaks, educated guesswork based on need and value? How does a team like Green Bay figure out that Savage is likely to go ahead of 30? Some is inside information from guys they've worked with in the past. That does happen on occasion, not always, not a lot, but some is just gaming things out, looking at contracts, looking at stuff, how their rosters are constructed, looking at their histories. I mean, this is the stuff that I was talking about on draft night when I went on my mini rant about projection and the work that these guys do. It's all well and good to put together your mock drafts, and we all do it, and it's great, and we consume them, and it's really fun thought exercises. But these people literally sit and look at, the entire draft history of a team's personnel grouping, how they've managed contracts, how they have churned through certain positions in the past, and what the likelihoods are athletic testing wise that they will target certain people, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And they do all of this work throughout the year. That's the kind of stuff when people are like, what do they do when it's not draft season? Well, that's the kind of stuff they're doing. So there's a ton of, information gathering that goes into it. Some information behind the scenes if they can get to somebody they know. They could maybe out having beers at the combine and somebody says something or they ask and et cetera. That does stuff. That stuff does happen, though not a ton of it. Backup QB situation. Do you think that Deshaun Kizer will improve in the new system, which will be more QB friendly to get him some more easy completions due to the new scheme? The old system was fitted to A-Rod. He had to fail. He had to fail when he had to step in. I don't know if he had to fail, Stefan. Yeah, I'd love it if the new scheme afforded him more opportunities for easy completions. There's no doubt about that. Helping the quarterback is supposed to be paramount to an offensive play caller. I agree with you that the last system was obviously predicated upon Aaron Rodgers. It was obviously designed around him, and things did seem to fall apart whenever Rodgers wasn't in there. A lot of that'll be on Kizer and how he takes to the system. Let's see how Lafleur uses him. I mean, don't discount Tim Boyle either. He's got a chance as well. Running the football always helps, right? That's usually a quarterback's best friend. We've seen it throughout the history of the NFL. You get a strong running game for a quarterback who's maybe a little older, it definitely helps him. I think that's going to be the case with Rodgers. We've seen it with Breeze. We've seen it with John Elway back in the day. That's kind of what I think they're shooting for, and that should ultimately help Kizer. Is it too early to ask which positions Packers target in 2020 draft? I go out on a limb and say tight end, wide receiver, and offensive tackle. Yes, too early. I just got done with the draft, people. Good Lord. I'm assuming that with the addition of Dexter Williams and his choice of number 22, was not his choice, that we can all say goodbye to Capri Bibbs. Not officially yet, but I think the writing is on the wall. Most certainly. Let's head back over to the live chat, see what's going on. I believe this is the year for offense evaluation. See who will be able to play in the new system the next year, tweak the roster on the offensive side. Yes and no, Mike. I mean, obviously you're always evaluating and you're always looking to see who fits and who doesn't, but there's no grace period here. They have to hit the ground running. Matt Lafleur has been brought in as an offensive coach and a play caller to revitalize the offense. And they don't get a year to kind of work out the kinks, so to speak. They will be expected, to hit the ground running week one and be productive and score some points. Did you see the Patriots drafted a punter? Don't tell Corey. Yeah, right. Greetings from Austria. What's up? Did you hear the interviews by Wisconsin media with the draft picks? I was surprised about the pessimistic approach of questioning the new players. I would disagree. I would quibble with your characterization of pessimism. I think, you want to unearth things and look at everything, all angles. And, the Packers media group will do a great job of touting all of the wonderful human interest angles. The people on the beat will try to look at everything, the good and the bad, and that's their job. Do teams purposely have minimal contact with draft prospects to not show their hand? Andrew, sometimes, yes. That's certainly been Gutekunst's MO so far, especially in the early picks. Gary, much like Alexander last year, had minimal to no contact with the Packers outside of the combine. The subterfuge angle, as Gutekunst likes to joke. I think every team is different, every situation is different, but it certainly seems that is kind of his MO, at least early on in his tenure. They did say a couple of times, both he and some of his lieutenants, that this is a guy that they had targeted since last February. Tells you how long they had been kind of looking at him and thinking about him and coveting him. Outside of that, they didn't do a whole lot with him. So I think that's something to keep in mind going forward as we cover drafts under Gutekunst. Will Matt Lafleur bring back the old-fashioned West Coast offense? Oh, damn, that's a big question. I'll try and give you a concise answer. Nah, kind of. I think it'll be not so much old-school West Coast. I don't think it's going to be Bill Walsh back in the day. I think it'll be much more akin to what we've seen out of the current 49ers with Kyle Shanahan, and perhaps remnant of what we saw with his father in Denver. A lot of boot action, a lot of that zone scheme, trying to work to the second level with your zone scheme and get a foot in the ground from the running back and get him upfield. Something that both Lafleur and Rodgers have mentioned on a number of occasions is condensed formations. Under McCarthy, we saw a lot of spread stuff, a lot of guys all the way out across the field. Sure sounds like, and this is kind of borne out by looking at the 49ers and the Rams under Sean McVay, I think you can expect a lot more stuff inside the hash marks where we've got wide receivers and tight ends all kind of lumped together. You're going to see a lot more of that. And then motion and things out of the same kinds of sets to try and confuse the offense and keep them off balance, where they're running very similar concepts, whether it is West Coast or no, out of the same formation, but using them differently, personnel-wise. We'll see how it, and that's the other thing. We can only go by what they say at this point. And everything he's talked about, meaning LaFleur, has been about basically working off of the system that he has been working in, whether it was with Shanahan, whether it was with McVay. what he started to do down there in Tennessee last year. We'll see a continuation of that. Now, obviously, he's got a much better quarterback to work with now, and that's what I'm excited to watch. Next, do you think Gmo will have a breakout season in 2019? I mean, I think it all depends on the definition of breakout, right? I don't think he's ever going to be a superstar. I don't think that's his ceiling, but I do think he can be highly productive with Aaron throwing him the football. And I think because Rodgers trusts him so much, there's a good chance that he will put up some decent numbers. Now, I think the real candidate for breakout is MVS. I think he's the one with the athletic upside that, the sky's kind of the limit for that kid. He can pretty much do it all. But as far as Geronimo goes, I think like I said, I think he's going to be a very solid starter, a really good number 2. But breakout is in the eye of the beholder. What does this draft say for Mike Daniels' future? Well, John, that's what I was talking about earlier in the stream when I was talking about looking at contracts that are coming up and then looking at the draft and seeing where they're expecting to fill the holes. Now, it doesn't always play out this way. Remember, when they drafted Jason Spriggs, part of that, not all of it, but part of that was to guard against possibly losing David Bakhtiari. Obviously, they ended up re-signing David Bakhtiari, and thank goodness they did. But that was part of that selection. The defensive linemen in this draft are partly to protect against when Mike Daniels leaves. Now, you could say if Mike Daniels leaves, but I think, and I know Tom Silverstein wrote a piece in the Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel about possibly fielding offers or dangling Mike Daniels in trade. I'd be surprised if they did that because I think they can still use him, but I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility. And I also think, what Tom was saying in regards to the kind of physical makeup of the guys they've brought in for Mike Pettine's defense, I think that's definitely worth mentioning and worth talking about. But it's very rare that defensive guys get third contracts in Green Bay. Could it happen for Mike? Sure, but I think as you kind of indicate here in your question, this draft is definitely kind of the writing on the wall that this will most likely be Daniels' last year in Green Bay. I'd like to see the Packers get a bona fide slot receiver. Why? They got plenty. Adams can play in the slot. MVS can play in the slot. EQ can play in the slot. Touchdown Jesus can play in the slot. They'll be fine. I mean, I would have loved Hollywood Brown. Don't get me wrong. I would have done cartwheels. But Kumaro can catch 80 balls from the slot like that. Are you content with all the players Green Bay drafted this year? Content is such a funny word. Are there players the Packers potentially passed on you would have hoped that they take a shot on? Thanks as always, Frank. There's always like draft crushes. Obviously, I really wanted David Montgomery, and then the Bears ended up taking him. But I'm really happy with the back they got out of Notre Dame. So, yeah, I mean, it's like I said kind of in the lead up to the draft. There's so much buildup now. There's so much hype. But all we can do is sit and wait and kind of see how it plays out, right? And I used to the last pick I ever remember getting really upset about the Packers passing on was the Jaguars linebacker who had the knee issue, and everyone was kind of thinking, oh, they should take him, and then they didn't. And they took Kenny Clark instead. And Kenny Clark turned out to be an awesome player. So after that, I'm just like, whoever they select, I'm on board until they give me a reason not to be. But every one of these are the newest members of the Green Bay Packers, my lifelong team, my love, my joy, my family. Now they are part of that family, And much like members of my family, I love them unconditionally. They screw up, and then we'll talk. How will these guys contribute on special teams? Good question, Katie. It's hard to say with any kind of certainty since we've got a whole new staff, right? And obviously, special teams is a major, major bugaboo in Green Bay. It has been for a long time. The turnaround starts now. And you would hope that some of these guys, I would doubt Savage, and Gary, the first-round picks, would probably do much. But I think, the rest of them, whether it's, field goal protection or gunners on punt coverage, there's all sorts of opportunities there. And look, make no mistake about it. If you're a rookie, especially, to a day 2 or 3 rookie, that's your key to getting on the squad, contributing on special teams. So you would hope they'll be given every opportunity to do so. Next, what do you think caused Rashan Gary's lack of production at Michigan? Good question, Julian. I'm not really sure. I did find Gutekunst's answer to a question along those lines to be interesting when he said, if you actually watch the tape, you see him affecting the quarterback. And I think that's something that you're going to hear a lot more about in these coming months as people start to break down his tape at Michigan, because the cursory looks that I've given it, and I mentioned this on the draft stream on Thursday night, I saw a guy who did get, to the quarterback when he was schemed to, but, when given an opportunity one-on-one, he didn't seem to have a lot of production. But going back after what Gutekunst said, I can see where he's talking about, a guy who fought through double teams, even triple teams sometime, and helped open up things for other guys. And that is a big component of Mike Pettine's defense. That's what it's been his hallmark from his time in New York with the Jets. And there's one other tidbit I'd kind of point everyone to. Michael Cohen tweeted out a couple of passages from Collision Low Crossers. Anybody who's watched me for any amount of time knows I've recommended this book several times. It's basically a year with the New York Jets, and it just happens to coincide with the time that Mike Pettine was the defensive coordinator. And there is a great section about Muhammad Wilkerson and Wilkerson's development and Mike Pettine's kind of involvement. And the similarities are pretty striking. When you look at Gary and the knocks against him and Wilkerson, and when he was coming in, Wilkerson turned out to be a stud, obviously prior to getting paid. I'm not saying that that's going to happen for Gary automatically, but the potential is there, and I think that's a big part of the reasoning behind that pick. They think they have a moldable piece of clay that has the perfect sculptor waiting at 1265. I would have loved Irv Smith as a tight end instead of the old lineman. I hear you, Aaron, but after a season of watching Aaron Rodgers go down each and every time he tried to do a bootleg and, a new coaching staff that actually wants to run the football, I'll take the old lineman. Have the Packers always drafted high RAS players? I think for a good long while now, at least since Thompson was in charge, yes, I believe that's the case. This offseason will go down in history as to how it changed the Packers' future. We'll find out, Mike, right? I mean, I know that's obviously what Mark Murphy, Brian Gutekunst, and company are hoping, but you got to all let it play out. But yeah, there's a very good possibility. Breaking news, and Nagler's not on the train. Hell has frozen over. Nico Saragusa being released is not exactly Aaron on the train level. I would have liked to have seen him, but it's not really that big a deal. Nagler, why do people say Davante Adams is not a top 5 wide receiver? Who cares? I swear, people in the lists, I just don't get it. I just don't get it. Should have got A.J. Brown. Elton Jenkins was a bad pick. What? May have been there in the 5th round. Okay, just stop. Just stop. Now you're just throwing darts. Who is going to play inside linebacker? I'm going to go with Blake Martinez and Oren Burks, the inside linebackers that are on the roster. Are the new rookies good tacklers? I know Savage is. That's what I'm all about. What was your favorite memory of the Saragusa era? All the chats we had about him. Good. There's a comment. Did you get your hair cut? Like months ago. Nags, was versatility a factor in the picks? You would tend to think so, given all the times they mentioned it. Whether it was the scouts, personnel directors, or Gutekunst himself, they all mentioned versatility in nearly every single one of them. It's obviously you like that, but at some point, guys got to line up. I thought Charles Walls, the area scout who talked about a couple of the selections, I loved his approach where he said like Jenkins, he was drafted as a guard. That's what he's here to do. But he has played all 5 positions, and we do think that's, the versatility helps him. But I do like that they knew what they drafted him to do, so to speak. What do you think Josh Jones will do? I think he'll play in sub packages. I think there's little doubt that he could not be the solution at free safety. But, you know, Mike Pettin likes to play with a lot of 3 safety formations, 3 safety personnel groups. And Josh Jones has value down by the line of scrimmage. You know, I get that he's probably not the ball hawking safety that maybe some fans were hoping for, but there's still value in that selection. There's still value in that player. And I think Pettin will continue to bring him along. The center we drafted was the best in the draft, and he can play other positions. Well, he's going to play guard, so I hope so. Got a favorite undrafted free agent? Oh, I like Matt Eaton. I just put up a clip of his from Iowa State. That guy can go up and get it. MVS will be the number 2 and be an up-and-coming speedster wide receiver. He's got the opportunity to. There's no doubt about it. I said a little bit earlier, I think he's going to be the biggest candidate for a breakout year. But yeah, he's got all the tools, and absolutely. What about the lock rumors you heard? I didn't hear any rumors. I know that the Broncos got up in front of the Packers because they knew the Packers were interested. That's what I know for a fact. Outside of that, my name's Paul. Shit's between you all. Are you still a Raven Green truther? Always, Pratik, until he gets cut too. But yes, absolutely. I love him. I think he has a chance to make some noise. What do you think King will do this year? Tony, I think he'll stay on the field and he's going to shut a hell of a lot of people up. How come you're so low on number 9? He's had to learn a new system every year since he's been in the league. Oh, you mean all 2 years? That has to be tough on a guy that, according to his college coach, was drafted 1 year too early. I mean, am I too tough on him, man? I only go by what I see on the tape. And look, he's been bad for a good long while. I mean, not just in Green Bay, but last year, the year before too. I mean, I get potential, and like you gotta, you know, you would hope. Here's the real reason. All right, you would hope. Yes, you understand. Yes, he's had to learn a new system, and he's very young. He maybe probably did come out a year too early, etc. I get all that. But from his first start in Cleveland to his, you know, spot duty in Green Bay, both week 1 and week 17, you would hope in that time period you would see some improvement. I mean, the guy started a ton of games for Cleveland his rookie year. You would hope by the time he got to year 2, he would not be making the same mistakes that he was his first NFL start. Yet you saw no progression, no improvement. If anything, you saw regression. So yeah, could he still improve? Absolutely. I'm not sitting here saying his career is dead, he can never amount to anything. I am saying it's worrying that you didn't see any improvement at all. At all. Rashan Gary in the slot. Now we're off the rails. All right, I'm going to have to jump, everybody. Thank you so much for all the questions. I'm sorry if I couldn't get to yours. I can't believe how many people show up here every day to talk Packers. I'll be doing extra cheese tomorrow, back with another daily on Wednesday. Thank you, guys. Please, if you're in line, you're thinking, oh my gosh, I got to have some Packers ticket, check out Ticket King. It's on cheeseheadtv.com. We got on the homepage, there's a link to the Ticket King. You can get all your Packers tickets. They've been in business since 1992. They have everything home and away, anything you could want when it comes to the Packers. Need Packers tickets, that's the place to go. And hey, if you're here, if you're on YouTube, hit like, hit subscribe, tell your friends, share us on Facebook, join our Patreon, $5 a month to support everything we do at Cheesehead TV. Thanks a lot, everybody. I'll talk to you guys soon.